Hi, second grade students. Today's story comes from Knowledge 3, Lesson 11, called Alexander the Great, Part 1. Before we begin our story, I'm going to introduce our vocabulary words. Our first vocabulary word for today's story is the word ambitious. Repeat after me. Ambitious. Ambitious means having a strong desire for success or achievement. Our second vocabulary word is the word devoted. Say devoted. Devoted means feeling strong loyalty or commitment. Our last vocabulary word is the word tame. Say tame. Tame means to train to obey people. To the north of the Greek city-states and of Mount Olympus lay the territory known as Macedonia. The Macedonian king, Philip II, watched and waited as the Greek city-states struggled among themselves for power and wealth after the Persian Wars. It seemed that they could work together brilliantly when they faced a common enemy such as Persia, but afterward they would go back to competing against one another. Away from all these conflicts, King Philip grew stronger. King Philip of Macedonia had a plan. He would let the rest of the Greeks wear themselves out fighting one another, and then he would lead his army south to unite all of Greece under his command. Philip also had a son whom he expected to follow in his steps and take over the throne one day. The boy was a bold, handsome, curly-haired youngster named Alexander. At first, Philip was a bit disappointed when it became clear that Alexander would not grow up to be a tall, strapping fellow like his father. Philip wondered, how can someone Alexander's size become a great warrior and commander like me? He soon realized that he had nothing to worry about. Alexander was determined to be the best at everything he did. He constantly practiced with sword and spear, hour after hour. Even full-grown soldiers told one another, "Keep your guard up when you practice against Prince Alexander, or you'll find his sword point at your throat." Alexander trained himself to swim in icy rivers and run for miles without stopping. He became an excellent wrestler and a champion horseman, and was constantly challenging other riders. But Alexander was more than strong and sturdy. He was intelligent too. Realizing this, Philip told his son, "I have arranged to have the greatest thinker in the world come here to teach you. He is the famous Aristotle. Treat him with respect." Alexander came to love and honor the wise Aristotle, and tried to learn all that he could from him. Pleased with his student, Aristotle taught the prince more than science and mathematics. He also tried to pass along all that the Greeks, especially the Athenians, had learned about leading a civilized and well-balanced life. Alexander loved to study the poems of Pindar. Alexander listened when Aristotle taught him the importance of observing and studying facts before making decisions. However, the prince's energetic nature caused him to use this lesson in ways far different from those than the quiet scientist had ever imagined. One famous example occurred when Alexander was in his early teens and set his eyes on a magnificent horse named Bucephalus. Alexander told his father's groomsman, "That is the horse I want to ride." The head groomsman bowed. "I'm sorry, Your Highness, I cannot let you, for your own safety. No one can ride Bucephalus. One of our greatest horsemen tried yesterday, and even he broke his leg." Alexander realized he would have to use his mind as well as his muscles to tame the horse. "I must think this through," he told himself. He watched as one rider after another led the horse out of the wooden fence and tried to mount the saddle. Alexander noticed something no one else had seen. The prince realized, why, the big fellow's frightened each time he sees his own shadow moving before him on the ground. He becomes so nervous that he throws off anyone who tries to ride him. Alexander took some sugar out to the horse. "Here, boy, eat this," he said, and he turned Bucephalus around in the other direction so that he was facing the sun and could not see his own shadow. Then Alexander easily climbed into the saddle. Everyone was amazed. Alexander rode the horse all afternoon. Even King Philip came out to watch, grinning at his son. "He's not so bad," called Alexander, grinning back. Finally, Bucephalus trusted Alexander so much that the boy could lead him to do anything, even with a shadow in front of him. Bucephalus became Alexander's horse, and Alexander so loved the horse that he later named a city after him. Soon Alexander was leading troops into battle for his father. He developed a habit that stayed with him all his life. He always rode in the front line of fighters. The soldiers were proud of their brave prince and loved him for taking risks as great as those he asked them to take. A number of times when a battle might have been lost, Alexander would yell, "Charge!" and ride ahead. His devoted soldiers would think, "We cannot let him be killed or captured." They had no choice but to follow him and win the battle, for they knew Alexander would never retreat. At last King Philip felt that he and his son were ready to conquer the Greeks who were south of Macedonia. By then, by a stroke of good luck, they found a better way. Their old foe or enemy Persia once again came after the Greek cities. Philip told the other leaders of Greece, "I will lead you against Persia." A few protested, but Philip and Alexander quickly invaded their cities and conquered them by force. People in the other city-states, weakened by war, were afraid to go up against the powerful Macedonian army. And then King Philip died, at the age of 20. Alexander became king of Macedonia. Although young in years, Alexander led his army through Greece, fighting and conquering when he needed to, and accepting surrender when he could. He generously gave gifts to the people and cities that welcomed him, while giving no mercy to those who opposed or went against him. At last, all of Greece hailed Alexander as their king. But Greece was not enough for the ambitious king. He put one of his trusted advisors in charge of Greece and announced, "It is time to end the Persian threat once and for all, and to call Persia my own." With that, Alexander set out on his greatest adventure.